going on, everybody? Welcome in another edition here of Mean Streets on FTN Network. Chris Meaney hanging out with you. Appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out. Little quick episode here. We are just a couple hours away from finally the NFL season kicking off. Of course, you're well aware at Arrowhead, the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs getting it on with the new team that everybody loves, the Detroit Lions, right? I think the NFL loves them. I think we can all get behind Dan Campbell as a head coach. We like the Lions team. They got some nice, young, exciting players. They've been a team that has pulled off a lot of upsets over the past couple of years. Today on the show, we are just going to preview the game. If you guys have any questions, start or sit, we can get into that. We'll get into Travis Kelce in a little bit. I have 3 props for you guys. I'm going to talk about this matchup here tonight. Tomorrow will be a much longer episode. I'm going to share my week 1 rankings with you guys, some of our FTN fantasy projections, and we will have some props. We'll have some start and sit stuff as well. If you were looking for all the content, all the goods, FTNfantasy.com, rankings updated today. Jeff Ratcliffe, Scott Spratt, Mike Randall, Adam Pfeiffer. We got the Pope, Jeremy himself. We have high stakes rankings, projections. Ratcliffe's the GOAT, right? We know all about Jeff Ratcliffe's #1 ranker in the game a couple years ago. His projections are on point. You know, if you have the FTN fantasy package, you will get, well, you could get, if you want, the plus Aaron Schatz, his almanac included. His show podcast just launched today on our FTN Network YouTube page. Look for that soon over at iTunes, wherever it is that you subscribe for your favorite podcasts. And, you know, start and sit tools, pace of play. My favorite tool that we have is the wide receiver cornerback matchup tool. Just shows the matchups, you know, where the routes that they're running, the side of the field that they're running their routes, the side of the field these corners like to play. It's all there included in the package. Hit me up if you're looking for it. Promo code Meaney, save yourself 10%. And we're going to get underway here in a second. Yeah, we're a little late. We're running a little late here today. Appreciate you. Usually running around 12 Eastern, which is something we're normally going to do, but that didn't work out for us all that well here this morning. But welcome in, Daily Handle in as well. So like I said, it's going to be a little bit of a shorter show today. If you have any questions about some players that you're wondering if you should start tonight, leave them in the comment section. Reach out at Chris Meaney, meanstreetsftn@gmail.com. But the Twitter machine, the DMs are always open, and I'm checking them constantly to try to help you guys out. It is week 1. My advice in fantasy is not to overthink things. If Travis Kelce does suit up, you got to play Travis Kelce. You didn't pick him in the first round to put him on your bench. My understanding is that he is a true game time decision to suit up tonight, that he is not experiencing any pain at all, that if he sits, it will be because the Kansas City Chiefs want to sit him. It's high risk, high reward. What are we doing here? It's week 1. This team has Super Bowl aspirations. We're not rolling out Travis Kelce if he's not near 100%, or I don't know, I'm just guessing 75%. Like, what's the risk in putting him out? I did see from Rap Sheet earlier that the Chiefs elevated a tight end that I'm forgetting his name right now. I think it's Matt. Last name starts with a B. I know that. Just from the practice squad. Again, I don't think we need to speculate. We're going to know here probably, you know, an hour and a half before kickoff whether Travis Kelce is playing, and if he is playing, you rock him, right? You play him. Like I said, he could have a dud week, but it's a tight end position after all, and nobody should be shocked if Travis Kelce wound up with like 100 yards on 8 grabs and a touchdown, you know, on one kind of bum knee. But my gut feeling is that he's active and he's kind of limited. That's my gut feeling, but we'll see what happens. Like I said, he wants to play. No pain, according to reports, but it is on the side of Kansas City to see what they will do here. Any other questions that you guys have for like tonight, we can get into for sure. So I just want to get into the props right away for tonight's game. This is what it's all about here today. As I mentioned, tomorrow we'll dive into some other props. The betting show launched the new season with Abby Labar, myself, and Mike Randall on our FTN Network YouTube page. Mike had 3 props. I had 3 spreads that I liked. We talked about some of our favorite matchups as well. But tomorrow on Mean Streets, we'll have at least 5 player props for you guys. Picks against the spread, totals, money line stuff, start and sit, also included in the FTN fantasy package when you have it. All kinds of tools and articles there to help you. And then Monday, of course, we'll recap it all on the show. Okay, Thursday Night Football. There's been some line movement here. Detroit plus 250. I'm getting the best possible number using our free parlay calculator prop shop here with you guys. Plus 250 for Detroit, Kansas City minus 215, the total at 53.5. There is a bunch of 4.5s. For example, again, parlay calculator. I can put the link inside the description. It's one of my favorite tools that we have over at FTN Fantasy or FTNBets.com. Excuse me. I am seeing Bet365 4.5, FanDuel 4.5, PointsBet 4.5, Unibet, DK 4.5, BetMGM 4.5, and Bet Rivers 4.5. But Caesars William Hill, I'm seeing 6.5 still out there. If you can get that, I would lean 6.5. This is from ESPN Stats and Info. Since 2001, the Super Bowl champs 13-6-3 against the spread in week 1. However, the last 2 Super Bowl champs have lost. Dan Campbell, since he entered the league as a head coach, 23-11 against the spread. It's tied for the best mark in football with Dallas. Again, from ESPN Stats and Info, he's 19-9 against the spread as a dog with 6 straight covers. We know how good this Detroit, well, maybe we don't know how good this Detroit Lions team is. Like, they have some skilled players on both sides of the ball defensively as well. New shiny toys we're looking at, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, really looking to see what they can offer here in their first NFL game. It is a high total game. The Lions played to a lot of high total games last year. The defense, I still believe they have some question marks. They did struggle last year to stop the run. I am interested still in Isaiah Pacheco in the over on his rushing yard prop. It's not my favorite 3, but I do believe he is going to get over that 53.5, which I do believe that number is hanging there. But this is a competitive team. Dan Campbell has always had this team playing, even last year when they were eliminated in the final week of the season on primetime into Lambeau to take on Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. They were able to pull out a win. It's not easy. Like, you could have been deflated. You know, you're already eliminated. Your season is over. But Dan Campbell had this team playing. It's a big moment for them. Of course, getting the first game at Arrowhead is a tough place to play. You know, I still think Kansas City will win this game. My prediction for this score is 27-23. I have a slight lean here to the under. I think that's a lot of points. Certainly could get there. Patrick Mahomes has been unbelievable the whole course of his career, but really over the first, like, his openers and like his first few weeks of every season has just been like off the charts. I just feel like he's awesome all the time anyways. But I do have a feeling like Detroit will hang around in this game. And I think ultimately Kansas City will win because, as I mentioned with the home and away splits, it's significant. And if you're not aware, I mean, I should have had them here in my notes, but I could just go over them. And, you know, sometimes this doesn't carry over every single year, but it's worth noting. It is worth noting this. The struggles that he had in particular outside of a dome. So, for example, I mean, it really is worth bringing to your attention here. Jared Goff, I could share my rankings. There's some other quarterbacks that would roll out tonight over Jared Goff, like Sam Howell. I probably would, you know, against Arizona. Baker, I probably wouldn't, but I have Baker as a top 22 quarterback this week against Minnesota. He's got some weapons. I think he's going to surprise some people there. Home and away splits, 9 home games last year for Jared Goff. He averaged 275 passing yards a game, 23 touchdowns and 3 picks, a 66% completion rate, 2,400 passing yards. In 8 road games, doesn't have as many passing attempts, 268 versus 319, a 64% completion rate, so just a touch lower. Only 1,900 passing yards, but this is the biggest difference here. 6 passing touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So the home and away splits really significant with Jared Goff. But let's get into the props we got Daily Handle here chiming in. He's going to bet Kansas City if they're losing by 6 or more points during the game plus odds. So you're going to do the live betting thing. One thing I will say about that is, you know, books don't really adjust that much when it comes to the Chiefs. I remember a couple times last year they were down by a touchdown and they were still favored to win the game. I don't know if you'll get plus money in that situation, but if you want to play this thing out that way, by all means. I do think Kansas City will win this game, slightly into the under. If you can get a 6.5, I even lean to the plus 4.5 as well. Like I said, the 4-point game, I think this could be a field goal game. As for some props here, I got a couple that I like. Where should we start? Let's start with a Detroit line. I got Josh Reynolds here. Josh Reynolds was our free bet of the day. We took this at 25.5 over at Bet Rivers at the time, I believe was minus 117. This number has moved a touch. Prop Shop is your friend. It's like Google search. You know, you just type in a player and you're going to get the best possible odds there. So it can save you a lot of time and save you a lot of cash. And that's what it's all about, getting the best possible number. I'm seeing some 28.5s, and I think he's going to get like 30 plus receiving yards. He topped this number last year in the first 5 games of the season, 28, 38, 96, 82, 92. He racked up at least 8 targets in 3 of those 5 games before he suffered an injury. There was 2 games where he had 10 targets. Now remember, yes, Marvin Jones is there and everybody loves Marvin Jones. I like Marv too. Former Lion, I think he's a fun player. Like, he could get 2 touchdowns tonight. I wouldn't be shocked, right? He has those kind of games. But Josh Reynolds and Jared Goff have a connection going back to the LA Ram days. So this was just posted in our Slack group, and I don't want to dive into it too much because it was a couple of years ago, but I do want to shout out Sam Sherdery, who brought this to my attention. It was a game between the Chiefs and the Rams when the Rams had Goff. So it was a 54-51 game. I think you guys remember. It was like I thought it was a Thursday night football game. And there was so many points. It was just awesome. And Todd Gurley, of course, was a G back then as well. But Josh Reynolds, 6 catches, 80 yards, a touchdown. He had 8 targets. This is not why I'm doing it. That's not why, but it's like a nice little added thing that I saw just a moment ago from our guy, Sam Schurter, who's super sharp. And I'm like, well, that's cool. I'm going to bring that up as well. But if you go back to the 17 starts that he's had with Goff, Josh Reynolds and Goff, he's had at least 26 receiving yards in 11 of those. He's kind of a high A-dot guy. It could happen on 1 or 2 grabs. 25 and a half, 26 and a half is really not a high number. I think that he can get there. And our guy, Josh Gross, as well, just debuted on his podcast. I know he loves him and he talked him up as well. And Abby Labar has given him some love in a short and a TikTok video today. So we were riding here with Josh Reynolds. And I know it seems weird because, I have Gibbs and Laporta on the squad, a lot of attention on Amon-Ra, and he's still going to eat. He's going to get his targets. I view him as a top 10 wide receiver this week. He's going to be a top 10 wide receiver every week that he's healthy in the slot, getting a lot of work, especially in a PPR league. But DJ Chark is gone. Jameson Williams is suspended. You still have a rookie tight end. You still have a rookie running back. You still have a running back in David Montgomery, who is new to the squad. And if Kansas City does like a Mahomes and they push the pace and they score all these points, they're pass happy. They love to push the pedal to the metal. They love to throw the football inside the red zone as well. Detroit will have to throw the football here and play catch up. So Josh Reynolds over 26 and a half receiving yards. It's really the only line that I'm going to get behind here. I'm going to share Gibbs's projections and where I have him ranked and where we have him as a team ranked with you guys in a few moments. If you're curious about Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta, one thing I actually did want to say before we get to the next prop, if Travis Kelce doesn't suit up, because why did you take 2 tight ends, right? In a single tight end league, you're not taking 2 tight ends. I don't think. This is tight end premium. So there's some options. I would rank them like this after Travis Kelce. If he doesn't play and you need some help, Tyler Higbee, 70 plus grabs last year. We already know that Cooper Kupp is not going to play. Van Jefferson, I do have aggressively ranked, roughly wide receiver 45. I think you could potentially play him in a tough spot this week. It is certainly risky, but Tutu Atwell, Ben Skoranek, not really buying it. Seattle got some nice corners. They got some nice defense. I think Higbee could rack up. I got Higbee ranked as tight end 7 this week. So I like him. I think he's going to get a ton of targets. I think if I'm projecting like a ceiling line for him, it could be like 7 for like 60. It's pretty good for a tight end. After Higbee, Okonkwo. Like Okonkwo, we've talked about him all year long in the offseason here. More yards per run than Travis Kelce. Small sample size, but number 1 among tight ends and yards per catch, yards after the catch. I think he's a freak. He's preseason. We take some things with a grain of salt, but he's playing some 11 personnel, something he didn't do a whole lot last year. He's not going to block. I know they want to run the rock with Derrick Henry. Saints still got a really solid defense. A lot of detention, of course, on DeAndre Hopkins. Treylon Burks is going to play. How healthy? I don't know if he'll be full go. I'm a little bit worried about starting him, but Okonkwo is a tight end that I like after Higbee. Cole Kmet, Pat Freiermuth, Juwan Johnson, big touchdown threat last year. The Titans are a team that, when you look at their rush defense, they're hard to run on. But does anybody even really try to run on them? Because the secondary has so many holes. They're just chucking nonstop. So Juwan Johnson, Schultz, Sam Laporta, Dulcich, Everett, Ferguson, Luke Musgrave. Kind of like that. Let's get into another prop I like on the Kansas City side. I like this one regardless of Travis Kelce. If he plays, if he doesn't play. And if he doesn't play, I would like it a little bit more. But it's not the end of the world if he does play, right? I still think that what we've seen in the preseason with Sky Moore taking that Juju Smith-Schuster role from last year in the slot, staying on the field in 2 wide receiver sets with MVS. I believe the reports, Rashee Rice, Kadarius Toney, Justin Ross. These guys are kind of gadget players, right? They're going to be involved in packages. I think the breakout is for real here for Sky Moore in year 2 as the slot wide receiver. Richie James, a lot of different moving pieces in Kansas City, but this guy I think is going to stay on the field. And I just feel like there's an edge. For example, this number here is over at Caesars. Again, William Hill, minus 118. And it's as high as 46.5 over at DraftKings. We have him projected for 44.6 receiving yards. So I think he's going to be on the field quite a bit. I'm going to take that edge. Even if you don't have that book, maybe you're a Bet365 user, DK user, I still would lean with the over if you saw 44.5. I don't know about 46.5. It's getting a little, we're getting a little high here. It's a big difference, but certainly think that he can have 50 receiving yards. One more Chief here. Again, regardless of if Travis Kelce plays or not, I'm taking a look at Jerick McKinnon. And there were multiple times last year with Jerick McKinnon when he was second behind Travis Kelce in targets and catches. We were all wondering last year who would be the wide receiver to step up after Tyreek Hill left. Juju Smith-Schuster really wasn't that guy. It's a lot of just different moving pieces, but Jerick McKinnon, career high, 56 grabs, 71 targets, 512 receiving yards, 9 receiving touchdowns. We talked about the pace of play for Kansas City. And with Andy Reid, it's always been like this. It's always been a pass-happy offense. They're inside the top 5 in terms of pass percentage in neutral situations. That's games within 8 points. And last year, 14 of his 17 games, he had 2+ grabs. And 7 straight regular season games, 5+ catches in 5 of his last 10. This is a big player out of the backfield. He's going to be on the field. Isaiah Pacheco, I like I said, I think I have that slight lean to the over on his rushing yards. I still think there's some holes in the rush defense for Detroit. But let's keep in mind that he didn't take a lot of hits in camp. It was just really roughly 2 weeks ago when he was cleared for contact. I like Pacheco as a target. I think he was a great fantasy target. The step forward that he took in the second half of last season on the brightest stage in the Super Bowl, he was great. Running the rock. He's starting to run more routes as well and get some targets out of the backfield. And he was doing that in camp with Mahomes, which is really nice to see. But Jerick McKinnon was brought back for a reason. CEH is an afterthought here. So I like the over 2.5 receptions for Mr. Jerick McKinnon. I see some people hanging out here. Kyle Woods, there he is. Jay's in the house. Means Deesh just got here. Happy football. Yeah, that was it. It was Matt Bushman. Thank you. Matt Bushman there off the practice squad. I would go with Juwan Johnson. I really would. I would go with Juwan Johnson in this spot. And I want to back it up with just like our projections. So on the way out here, I will share what we have for projections when it comes to Gibbs and Sam Laporta. But we have Juwan Johnson at the tight end position. It's just so bad, right? We have him projected for 5.1 fantasy points, 4.4 targets, 2.7 grabs, 30.9 receiving yards, 0.3 of a touchdown. We have Kincaid for 4.8, like Irv Smith ahead of him, Dalton Schultz, Sam Laporta's at 5.1, 3.8 targets, 2.6 grabs, and 33.5 receiving yards. So I would lean with Juwan Johnson. I think that the Titans have a defense that's tough to run on. You got Jamal Williams there. Mike Randall likes the under Jamal Williams rushing yards. He gave that out on the betting show yesterday here at FTN Network. He's always really been able to throw on them. And I really saw it firsthand with the Eagles because they were running all over everybody last year. And then when they played the Titans, they didn't even try to run. They didn't care. It was one of Jalen Hurts' best games. He was airing it out. Of course, A.J. Brown, the wrench, had something to do with it. I'm sure of it. But he was airing it out to everybody deep down the field. So Juwan Johnson's a guy that I like quite a bit. I have him as like I said, I have him just behind Higbee as guys that you can play, I think, this week if Travis Kelce doesn't suit up here tonight. Deesh got Njoku and Juwan Johnson playing Johnson. Yeah, no, I don't think you're crazy. I do have Njoku a couple spots ahead, but again, projections 5.1 to 5.5. 5.5 for Njoku, 5.1 there for Juwan Johnson. I don't think you're crazy at all. I really like Juwan Johnson. I think he's probably one of the best kept secrets at the tight end position. What do you have? 7 touchdowns last year? Big body tight end. You can go up and get it. The one reason I feel like he could be in for a big season is like Michael Thomas's health, right? He's played 10 of the Saints' last 50 games. So if he is sidelined, we have seen Derek Carr lean on big body tight ends, right? Darren Waller obviously is a freak, and I think he's in for a great season with the Giants. But remember that first game, was it last year or a couple years ago? It was like 16 catches or something like that. He really hones in on big body tight ends. We got Mikey Boy G in the house. Have to play Sky in my keeper league tonight. Either him or Gabe Davis. I actually do have Gabe Davis ranked higher than Sky. I think, we could see Sauce on Stephon Diggs. Now, I wouldn't sit Stephon Diggs, but it's a really tough spot for him. I'll share the projections. I don't want to just give you my rankings to share what we have going on here at FTN Fantasy to help you out and to see, but I'm sure Ratcliffe would agree here with me. We have Gabe Davis at 7.4 fantasy points, a half point setting. I know he's not a big PPR type of guy, but he does have explosiveness to his game, right? I think he was top 4 among guys with like 60 targets. He was top 4 in ADOT. George Pickens was there. Chris Olave was there. He's the type of guy that can get you like 2 or 3 touchdowns. But I do believe that I understand the question, because this game I believe it's more fantasy friendly, higher total, where that Jets and Bills game could be low scoring. And Josh Allen's had some struggles against the Jets. But we do have Gabe Davis for 5.5 targets, 3.2 catches, 51.3 receiving yards, and 0.4 in terms of touchdowns, which is higher than some guys around him at 0.3. Again, he has that higher ceiling with touchdown upside. As for Sky Moore, we have him roughly wide receiver 50. Gabe Davis is roughly wide receiver 37-ish. And we have Sky Moore for 3.7 catches and 43.9 receiving yards on 4.5 targets. So understand the question. If I'll tell you this, Mikey Boy G, if you're hanging on, if Travis Kelce doesn't play, I'd play Sky Moore. I'd lean to Sky Moore. Somebody's going to have to catch some passes there. It may be spread around to 5 or 6 different wide receivers, Jerick McKinnon as well. But if there's no Kelce, if he is actually inactive, then I would lean with Sky Moore there in the high total game. Raziz 91 football is back. Ooh, no more golf, tennis, or pickleball. Wow, good for you. I don't have any pickleball picks if you're looking for them. JSN or Elijah Moore. I think I'm leaning JSN there. Personally, I will share again what we have going on here between the two guys. I do believe Elijah Moore is probably on page 2. I do have him outside my top 50 at the wide receiver position this week. Let's see. Where are we at? Elijah Moore, 5.9 fantasy points. We have him for 3.3 catches, 40.6 receiving yards, and 0.3 touchdowns. I have Donovan Peoples-Jones a touch higher. I think that there's a better chance for like maybe a deep ball threat there, and maybe he can get a touchdown or 2. Jackson Smith and Jigba, we do have a couple spots higher. Very similar line, but a couple spots higher. And I like the matchup more. It's Cleveland and Cincy. I think that could be like when I say slugfest, I don't view it as like a high scoring slugfest, as like maybe an offensive grind, so to speak. But JSN, I suppose that there's more risk. Like there should be more risk in JSN because of the injury, but it sounds like he's good to go. He's a rookie in the slot. I view him as the third option. Geno Smith led the NFL in completion percentage. I think he's going to use him. I would probably I would lean JSN. I think the safer play may be Elijah Moore, honestly, Kyle, just because of it's really close. These guys are in the same tier for me. They're in the same tier for me. If JSN is active and playing, just go JSN, right? The Rams are going to be a mess this season. All they did is ship off talent, and they didn't replace anybody defensively, right? Jalen Ramsey, they lost Floyd, they lost a lot of players. They still have Donald, of course, but they lost a lot of players on the squad. I would lean with Jackson Smith at Jigba, and there's a little bit of unknown here with Elijah Moore. Yeah, I think he has a role in the slot, but he's definitely behind Cooper and Njoku, and maybe even Donovan Peoples-Jones, where JSN could be that third option. Okay, Dotson, Sky Moore, Tony. Dotson, come on. It's our guy. I don't even have to look at the projections to see it, but I will if you want to know. Dotson for sure. Terry McLaurin sounds like he's going to play. It's the Cardinals. And Dawson was just so good last year in all the games he played. I mean, he was 7 touchdowns as a rookie. He was tied for number 1, top 10 in yards per catch. He was also among the leaders in terms of ADOT. Already got him in. Just do it. Yeah, don't even think twice about it. It's a primetime matchup. We love the matchup. The matchup is great. Terry, too, like, is he going to play 100% of the snaps? No chance, right? They're 7-point favorites at home against a brutal Arizona Cardinals squad, and maybe he sits a little bit, but Yeah, we really saw it at the start of the season with Dotson. Then he had the injury, and then he was limited even when he came back. But then towards the end of the season, he was, averaging 7 targets per game, only 5 per game on the season with 7. He finished off strong with some touchdowns, 4 fewer and red zone targets than McLaurin, and he played 5 fewer games than him as well. But I will share the projections. Turf toe, yeah, right. But I think Terry, I think he's going to suit up this week. I'll give you the projections just maybe give you a little bit of a peace of mind to see. So we have Dotson in a PPR setting at 9.7 points, 3.9 grabs, 52.6 receiving yards there. We already talked about Sky Moore. Kadarius Toney, I wouldn't start at all. I wouldn't even consider starting Kadarius Toney. And if he got a couple touchdowns, he got a couple touchdowns. And it's just, there's a lot of risk. Week 1, I think I'd be overthinking it a touch. We have him for 5 fantasy points in a PPR setting, 1.9 catches, 22 receiving yards, right? The one thing with Kadarius is what I've seen from him in a small sample size in Kansas City is they really like to use him in the red zone, right? They definitely like to use him in the red zone in some, the packages we saw in the Super Bowl with the touchdowns, some rushing attempts from him as well. Okay. One more thing on the way out. I do have a couple picks. I'm going to share the picks for tomorrow. Tomorrow will be like a start and sit. I'll share my rankings, share projections, props, and all that stuff. I wanted to share what we have for Montgomery and Gibbs and where I have them. So our consensus rankings, how we have Gibbs at 16, RB 16. We have Montgomery at RB 23. Gibbs for me at 22 and Montgomery at 24. Our projections actually have Montgomery with a better day. Slightly at 10.8 fantasy points and a half point setting, and Gibbs at 10.2. We have Gibbs for 41.5 rushing yards on 9.4 carries. I believe his rushing carry prop is 7.5. I think it's slightly juiced, but it's kind of interesting. We have him for 32.5 receiving yards on 3.9 catches, 4.9 targets. Of course, more value for him in a PPR league. He would be ahead in the projections over Montgomery. These are half point. For Montgomery, have 61.5 rushing yards on 14 carries. We have him for 12.6 receiving yards, 1.7 catches. So 10.8 points, 10.2 points. These are guys that, like, especially Montgomery. I think everybody loves Gibbs, but especially Montgomery. Gibbs is a guy that you're going to play out there, especially in PPR league. But if you had Alvin Kamara or if you have Javonte Williams, Jonathan Taylor, I would play Montgomery over Javonte Williams. These are guys that I have just a touch higher. J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders, Rashad White, James Conner, Dameon Pierce, Jamal Williams. Tough matchup, but I think he's plus money at BetMGM for a touchdown, plus 150. I think he's going to find the end zone. Other books are minus like 130, minus 140. BetMGM's got plus 150 hanging there. Walker and Madison, those are guys that I would play over him. And at the wide receiver position, I think you're just rolling everybody, like, besides Sky Moore, right? Actually, there's really not a lot of, come to think about it, it's just Amon-Ra St. Brown. Van Jefferson have his wide receiver 48 after the Baltimore wide receivers, after Hollywood, after Gabe Davis, Michael Thomas, Brendan Cooks. I don't think you're in a situation where you're thinking about Van Jefferson, but if Travis Kelce is active tonight and Sky Moore was like on your radar to play, I would play Van Jefferson over Sky Moore. The opportunity alone, right? It's just, he is the most familiar with Matthew Stafford. And I know he didn't step up when Cooper Kupp was sidelined, but it wasn't Matthew Stafford under center. Somebody's going to have to catch some passes there. They're big dogs on the road in Seattle. So Van Jefferson is a guy I would play over Sky Moore if indeed there was Travis Kelce was active. If Travis Kelce wasn't active, I would lean with Sky there. I think we're going to get out of here. Any other questions you guys have? Playing Monty as well tonight in a flex same league, full point PPR. I like it. I'm playing him as well. I'm playing him over Javonte Williams, who I drafted ahead of Javonte Williams. Again, quickly on the way out, in case you see some more people popping in here, we have Josh Reynolds over 26.5 receiving yards at minus 113. I would take it anywhere as high as 28.5, 29.5. I think he has 30 receiving yards. May take some shots on Josh Reynolds as well as like a 50 plus receiving yards or first touchdown or something like that. Sky Moore over 38.5 receiving yards at minus 118. Jerick McKinnon over 2.5 receiving touchdowns at minus 118. And I just noticed I didn't talk touchdowns with you. So let's do that. As we get out of here, we'll bring up DraftKings and let's get some touchdowns here. I think most books are 4.5. I think that 6.5 is probably gone. But as of right now, I have the lean to 4.5. I think Kansas City wins this game by a field goal, like the under 53.5. All right, touchdowns. I mean, Kelsey's, we're not breaking news here, minus 125. Travis Kelsey, if he suits up, I mean, it's a risky play, right? I don't know your bankroll management, the risk that you like to play, but Travis Kelsey is a guy that scores a lot of touchdowns. I'm going to leave him off the list here. Isaiah Pacheco, I like at plus 125. I like Isaiah Pacheco at 9-1 for a first touchdown. It could happen inside the red zone. It could be a rushing attempt. Kansas City takes the ball maybe on offense and they score that first touchdown. It could be a pass for sure. But I think Pacheco at plus 125 for a touchdown, 9-1 for an anytime. I like Dave Montgomery at plus 110 for a touchdown. I think he's going to play that goal line role, guys. I think he's going to play the Jamal Williams role from last year. Gibbs, I think, is built more than Swift to play that role, but I think Montgomery was brought in for a reason. He's a good back. Yards after contact, not fantastic, but a massive difference leaving an offensive line in Chicago to Detroit. It's a massive upgrade for him. So Montgomery, the two backs, and Isaiah Pacheco, Montgomery. I just have this feeling about Josh Reynolds today at plus 360 for a touchdown. Marvin Jones may be more suited for one, but we're getting a better number here for Josh Reynolds, and I think he's going to be a guy that finishes with more targets than Marvin Jones. And MVS, I would rather sprinkle like a 0.25 units maybe on MVS as a first touchdown at 13-1, even though we just talked about Isaiah Pacheco. I think I could envision like a deep pass, early in the game from Mahomes down the field to a guy like MVS. And I don't think Mahomes is out of play either at plus 270. I do like his rushing yard prop at 17.5. There's a guy that we know what he can do. And even in the Super Bowl, remember he had one leg, one ankle, and this guy was still running down the field, right? It's kind of what he does. So the over 17.5 and plus 270 for him to have a rushing touchdown as well. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. Pacheco scores, Montgomery scores, Reynolds scores, Mahomes scores. And I think Gibbs has a decent day. I would lean to the over on the 30.5 receiving yards from him. I could see him catching 4 or 5 passes here in the very first game of his NFL career. Good luck, guys. Hit me up. If you're just watching the replay, you have any other tough sit questions, but I think we're all good. Travis Kelsey plays. You play Travis Kelsey. You didn't take him in the first round. If Travis Kelsey doesn't suit up, Higbee, Okonkwo, Kmet, Freiermuth, Juwan Johnson, Schultz, Sam Laporta, Dulcich, Everett, Ferguson, Luke Musgrave. If you're looking for more picks, FTNBets.com. Picks from everybody across all sports, projections, tools, Discord channel, promo code Meaney, 10% off. We have the free betting show. We recorded it yesterday. You can go check that one out as well. Mike had 3 props. I had 3 picks against the spread. And tomorrow we will answer all your start and sit questions. We will have a start and sit segment here. I'll show you players that I'm kind of leaning towards sitting, leaning towards starting. And it's not going to be obvious players. We'll try to think of some players with some tough calls, and we'll dive deep. We'll have some props, picks against the spread. We'll have a lot of fun tomorrow as well. And we're going to aim for 12 Eastern. Have a good one, guys. Good luck. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers.